In a luxurious mansion on the outskirts of Amsterdam, Richard van Dijk, a renowned millionaire in the financial sector, watches through the window his son Lucas at a candlelit dinner with his fiancée Sophie. Sophie is a charming woman, but Richard, with his vast experience, suspects that she is only interested in the family's money. Suspicious and not wanting to hurt his son, he decides to test Sophie in an unexpected way, disguising himself as a cashier at a supermarket and observing her behavior. Richard, thinking as he watches the couple, does she really love him? Or is she just after our family's fortune? Richard decides that he wants to know the truth at any cost, even if it means risking his son's heart. Richard, quietly to himself, I will find out who Sophie really is. Richard adopts an impeccable disguise. With simple clothes and a cap that hides his face, he starts working as a cashier at a popular market frequented by Sophie. During the first few days, he watches her from afar, always attentive to her behavior as she does her shopping. One day Sophie arrives at the checkout where Richard is working. She seems distracted and is talking on the phone. Sophie, talking on the phone, yes, I know Lucas is adorable, but honestly, he's kind of naive sometimes. At least when we get married, I'll be very well off financially. Richard hears this and is furious inside, but he keeps calm. He serves her normally like any other cashier. Richard, with a discreet smile, Good afternoon, miss. Is everything all right with your purchases? Sophie, glancing quickly at him and paying little attention. Yes, just scan quickly, please. In the following days, Richard continues to observe her, and the pattern repeats. Sophie treats the market employees with coldness and disdain, especially those she considers of lesser importance. This confirms Richard's suspicions that she might be an opportunist. Richard, thinking as he watches Sophie walk away from the checkout, she has no consideration for anyone but herself, but I still need more proof before revealing everything to Lucas. Determined to uncover the truth, Richard devises a plan to put Sophie to a definitive test. He asks an influential friend to pretend to be a major investor interested in a new, rich heiress. This friend would be introduced to Sophie at a gala organized by Lucas. On the night of the event, Sophie is dazzling, surrounded by important people. She seems completely at ease with the financial elite. Richard, still disguised, watches from afar as Lucas introduces Sophie to the investor. Lucas, smiling and excited. Sophie, I want you to meet Mr. Willem, one of the most respected investors in Europe. He's curious to know more about our plans for the future. The fake investor begins a conversation with Sophie, while Lucas steps away for a moment. Willem casually mentions his interest in heirs who can handle large sums of money, observing Sophie's reaction. Willem, in a casual tone, I've heard that you'll be part of a great fortune soon. It must be exciting to be about to marry someone like Lucas, right? Sophie, laughing with an ambitious gleam in her eyes, Oh, of course, Lucas is wonderful, and being with someone with so many opportunities certainly makes life more interesting. Richard, hearing this, clenches his fists in anger but still controls himself. That final comment was what he needed to hear. Sophie's true intention was clear. She was more interested in the money than in Lucas. Richard, thinking as he watches the scene, she never really loved him. She's playing with my son's feelings. It's time to act. He decides that revenge is near, and it will be as painful as it is revealing. Richard, still with anger boiling inside, decides it's time to confront Sophie, but he wants to do it in a definitive and dramatic way. He knows that revealing the truth directly to Lucas could cause his son great pain, so he plans a meeting where Sophie won't be able to escape her own words. The next day, Richard invites Sophie for a private lunch under the pretext of discussing wedding details and future plans. She accepts, unsuspecting of anything. The meeting takes place at an elegant restaurant in Amsterdam, but Richard remains in his cashier disguise for one more day. When Sophie arrives, she seems surprised to see the supermarket cashier there waiting for her. Sophie, confused, "What are you doing here? Is this some kind of joke?" Richard, calm but firm, "It's not a joke. There's much more about me that you don't know, Sophie. But today you will understand everything." She laughs in disdain, still thinking it's a mistake, until Richard takes off his cap, revealing his true identity. Sophie, shocked. "What, you're Lucas's father? But why?" Richard, in a grave voice. "Yes, it's me. And what I heard during these days that I worked as a cashier was enough to show your true intentions. You never loved my son, only what he represents to you, wealth and status." Sophie is speechless for a few seconds before trying to justify herself. Sophie, nervously, "No, you're misinterpreting. I love Lucas. Of course I think about the future. Who wouldn't?" Richard, looking her in the eyes, "Is that what you think about? The future or just the money he can give you? You talked about using my son, and I'm going to expose that truth to him." Sophie's expression changes completely, with desperation starting to appear on her face. She knows the truth is about to be revealed. Sophie, begging, "Please, Richard, don't tell him. I can change, I really care." But Richard has already made his decision. The revenge will be to expose her falseness in the most painful way possible. Richard, without hesitation, "There's nothing more to discuss. Tomorrow Lucas will know everything. Prepare yourself for what's to come." The next day, Richard gathers Lucas and Sophie at his mansion, ready to reveal everything. He makes sure to stay composed, knowing that what's about to happen will change his son's life. Lucas, suspecting nothing, arrives excited with Sophie by his side. However, the heavy atmosphere in the room quickly catches his attention. Lucas, confused, "Dad, what's going on? Why did you call us here so urgently?" Richard, looking directly at Sophie, "Lucas, there's something you need to know about the woman you're about to marry." Sophie begins to visibly get nervous, looking at Richard in fear of what he might say. She tries to interrupt. Sophie, with a trembling voice, "Richard, please, we don't need to do this now." Richard, firm, not looking away, "Yes, we do. I discovered something about Sophie, something you deserve to know. Over the last few weeks, I disguised myself as a simple supermarket cashier. Sophie never recognized me, and what I heard from her showed that she's not with you for who you are, but for what you have." Lucas, shocked, What are you talking about? This can't be true." Sophie, realizing that her lie is about to be exposed, desperately tries to turn the situation in her favor. Sophie, with tears in her eyes, pretending sincerity, "Lucas, please don't believe him. He's twisting things. I love you, you know that." But Richard is prepared. He plays a recording he made of one of Sophie's conversations at the supermarket, where she admitted being more interested in the fortune than in Lucas. Recording of Sophie on Richard's phone. "Lucas is adorable, but what matters is that I'll be very well off financially after the wedding." The room falls silent. Lucas seems devastated, looking at Sophie in disbelief. Lucas, with a choked voice, "Sophie, is it true? Are you only with me because of the money?" Sophie tries to hold Lucas's hand, but he pulls away, hurt. Sophie, desperate, "Lucas, listen to me. I love you, but we also have to think about the future. Your father is exaggerating." Lucas, with a hard look, "No, you lied. You never really loved me." Richard's revenge is complete. He exposed Sophie, and now Lucas sees the painful truth about the woman he thought he'd spend his life with. With a broken heart, Lucas slowly rises from the chair, still trying to process what he just heard. Sophie, realizing that her facade has been exposed, tries once again to approach him, but Lucas steps back, his eyes filled with pain and disillusionment. Lucas, with a trembling voice, "I thought you loved me. I thought we could build a life together, but it was all a lie." Sophie, desperate, "Lucas, please, I made mistakes, but that doesn't mean we can't overcome this. I can change." Lucas, cold and determined, "There's no more us, Sophie. Everything we had was built on lies. I don't want to see you anymore." Sophie, realizing she's lost everything, looks at Richard, furious but powerless. Sophie, bitterly, "You got what you wanted, Richard. You destroyed everything." Richard, calm but firm, "I didn't destroy anything, Sophie. You did that yourself when you chose to use my son for your own gain. Now, you'll deal with the consequences." Sophie, with nothing left to say, leaves the house, leaving Lucas devastated. The silence that follows is heavy, until Richard approaches Lucas, trying to console his son. Richard, softly, "I'm sorry, son. I knew this would hurt you, but I couldn't let you keep living this lie." Lucas, still in shock, takes a deep breath and looks at his father. Lucas, with tears in his eyes, "I know you did this for me, but it hurts. I really loved her." Richard, with sorrow, "I know, son, I know, but in time you'll see that you deserved someone who truly loves you for who you are, not for what you have." Lucas, shaken, hugs his father, trying to find comfort in the fact that, although he lost Sophie, at least he has someone who truly cares about him. Months pass after the devastating revelation. Lucas, though still marked by disappointment, begins to rebuild his life. He distanced himself from high society and decided to focus on himself, returning to old hobbies and dedicating himself to personal projects. His relationship with his father, Richard, strengthened, with both supporting each other after the events. One day, Lucas is walking through a park in Amsterdam when he meets a young woman named Emma, who is working on a community project supporting underprivileged children. Unlike Sophie, Emma is simple, genuine, and passionate about her work, and she knows nothing about Lucas's fortune. They talk for hours, exchanging ideas about life and their values. For the first time since the breakup, Lucas feels he is connecting with someone in an authentic way. Emma, smiling, "It's rare to find someone who cares so much about others. Many people only think about themselves." Lucas, looking at her with a hint of hope in his eyes, "I've met people like that, but I think now I'm learning to value what really matters." Over time, Lucas and Emma become great friends, and something more begins to blossom between them. He finally understands what his father always wanted to show him, that true love has nothing to do with status or money, but with connection and sincerity. Meanwhile, Sophie, after being exposed, disappears from the social circle. Without the prestige or access to the fortune she expected, she realizes that her empty ambitions led her to ruin. Fate wasn't kind to her, and the echo of her wrong choices follows her. Richard, observing the new path Lucas is taking, feels at peace. He has fulfilled his role as a father, protecting his son, and now watches with pride as Lucas grows and matures. Richard, reflecting as he sees Lucas and Emma together, finally he is where he should be, alongside someone who truly values him. The story of Lucas and Richard reminds us of the power of true love and sincerity. Often appearances can be deceiving, and what seems like a solid relationship may be built on lies. Richard, by protecting his son, showed that the truth, no matter how painful, always prevails and sets us free. Like Lucas, we all face moments when we need to open our eyes to the truth and distance ourselves from what doesn't do us good. True love and loyalty should never be based on material interests, but on genuine respect and care. If this story touched you, share it with someone you think might also be inspired. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the hardest experiences. Leave a comment about what you thought of this story. Have you ever gone through something similar, or do you know someone who lived through a similar situation? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned for more emotional and inspiring stories like this one. In the next video, we'll bring another journey full of lessons and twists. If you're not subscribed to our channel yet, don't waste any time. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thank you very much for watching until the end. Your presence and support are what motivate us to continue bringing these incredible stories. At Inspired Stories, our goal is to share stories that touch the heart and make us reflect on our own lives. Join us on this journey. See you in the next video. Until then,